India in the 80s. G.D. Somani Memorial Lecture, Bombay, January 8, 1981. From the book We the People, N.A. Palkivala. India has a strong claim to be regarded as the world's greatest expert in the art of perpetuating poverty. It takes a lot of doing to keep a singularly gifted and enterprising nation like India in the ranks of the poorest on earth. While we are beyond doubt among the 15 most intelligent and skilled nations in the world, we are among the 15 poorest. The frightening fact is that during the entire period of the last 31 years that we have been a republic, the per capita income of our people has risen by only 55% in real terms, since the annual average growth rate of our economy has been no more than 3.5%, and family planning has progressed so little beyond the planning stage. Economic growth without social justice is inhuman, but social justice without economic growth is impossible, and economic growth is equally impossible unless we combine the humanism of true socialism with the dynamism of private initiative, which is loosely called capitalism. Indian economy is a giant held in chains. What India has achieved so far in economic development is only a small fraction of its true potential. We have the ability to become a major economic power at the end of the decade if only we shed the shackles of ideology and pursue pragmatic economic policies. In the old established industries, many other countries are ahead of India, but there are industries which have just emerged on the world horizon. For instance, biotechnology, including biogas and biomass and electronics. India should take a big way to these green fields and pastures new, where no country can have a head start over us. One of the industries in which India has a tremendous potential for growth is the computer industry. The Indian mind is extremely well suited to the computer age, but for strangulating restrictions, India would be earning enormous sums of foreign exchange by doing software and other work for developed countries which like to turn to India because the pay scales are substantially lower here for comparable skills. Controls must claim the primary responsibility for the chronic scarcity of essential goods and for the ever-expanding black market. But our unhealthy addiction to controls is assured of continuance because they satisfy four basic hungers: the hungers of professional politicians for the substandard class of socialism, for political parties' hunger for an unending supply of funds, the bureaucrats' hunger for larger and larger powers, and the unprincipled businessman's hunger for untaxed income. Countless regulations and restrictions of arbitrary origin and pernicious effects continue to ensure unemployment and grinding poverty. Controls whose mind has decayed completely, but whose teeth and claws are sharper and stronger than ever before. Controls came to India as a national blessing in the early stage of our republic, but have grown to become a national curse. We are the only country in the world where a manufacturer is prohibited by law for increasing his production beyond the permitted capacity, even though he may seek to achieve the growth merely by improved techniques or more efficient management, and without employing additional capital or installing new plant and machinery. To tackle the problem of unemployment, 90 million new jobs would have to be created during the next 10 years, that is, an average of 9 million new jobs a year. In actual fact, only 4 million new jobs are created in all the 5 years of the fifth plan. That is less than 1 million jobs a year. There was a fall of 2.2% in our per capita gross national product in 1980-81 as compared to 1978-79. We have to transform our apathetic and lethargic democracy into an anticipatory and participatory one. An anticipatory democracy foresees the problem ahead and equips itself well to meet them, and a participatory democracy is one in which the people are not content merely to vote at the time of elections but participate in the continuous process which goes to the making of decisions and the formulation of policies. I would like to appeal to business to spend 5% of its profits in discharge of its social responsibilities, 4% on human investment in the area adjoining the factory or business premises, and 1% in educating our lawyers, MPs and MLAs. The government should allow this expenditure as deductible for income tax purposes. In order to develop economically, a nation needs mental resources, material resources, and the will to progress. India has the first two, but not the third. We have the wish to progress. We have yet to develop the will to progress. Indo-US relations. Woodrow Wilson International Center, Washington, D.C., May 19, 1978. While the peoples of India and the United States have always had sentiments of friendship and goodwill towards each other, the government of the two countries a few years ago found it difficult to be on the same wavelength. In fact, earlier in the decade, the warmth of feeling between the two governments was such that it could have frozen both the Ganges and the Mississippi. The United States and India are the antipodes from the viewpoint of geography and economics, but their common destiny is to be the standard bearers of liberty, and in this context, India is to the third world what the United States is to the first. India's present policy of genuine non-alignment has made it as friendly with the United States as it is with the Soviet Union. Non-alignment, by definition, means the absence of a tilt, but some countries during certain periods have followed a policy of non-alignment which was as conspicuous for the absence of a tilt as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. By no means the least important are the cultural relations between the two countries. Indian culture and American culture are complementary and supplementary to each other. You need American culture to have a standard of living. You need Indian culture to have a standard of life. There can be no quantitative scorecard of the enrichment of relations between the two countries, since such enrichment is not to be measured in material terms. It is worth remembering that the relations between the two countries were at the lowest ebb in 1974, although that was the year when the United States wrote off a check for over $2 billion by way of relinquishment of the PL 480 debt owed by India, the largest amount paid by a single check in the history of banking, as noted in the Guinness Book of World Records. As between individuals, so between nations, the true bond consists in the affinity which transcends all monetary considerations. Disarming the unarmed. Debate at Harvard University 1979, earlier version Newsweek June 19, 1978. In India, the role of the atom is that of a worker and not of a soldier. India uses its nuclear capability earned entirely for peaceful purposes and primarily for the generation of electricity. Unlike the United States, India does not have such resources and does not enjoy such a luxury of options for generating power that it can afford to regard nuclear fuel as the energy option of the last resort. India has in operation or under construction 4 atomic power stations of 2 reactors, 5 research reactors and 3 reprocessing plants. Out of these 12 facilities, only one has a tie with the United States. At Tarapur, the United States built the first atomic power station consisting of 2 to 200 megawatt boiling water reactors which supply electricity to the states of Maharashtra and Gujarat. It was constructed under an agreement made in 1963 and to continue in operation till 1993, which provides that the United States is bound to supply enriched uranium as fuel and India is debarred from getting fuel from any other source, and the spent fuel can be reprocessed only after a joint determination by the two governments that safeguards can be effectively applied. The nuclear issue in the US-India relations. The effect of the Non-Proliferation Act of 1978 passed by the US Congress is that after March 1980, which is the cut-off date, no fuel can be supplied or other assistance given to any country by the United States unless that the country is willing to put all its nuclear facilities, not only the facility receiving the fuel or other aid, under full scope safeguards. It enjoins the US government to renegotiate all existing contracts to bring them into conformity with the provisions of the Act. Tarapur is already under international safeguards, but the Non-Proliferation Act requires that if India is to receive American fuel under the terms of the agreement, full scope safeguards must be clamped on all its nuclear facilities